Hi, my name is Kevin Parvin. I'm the head of asset wealth management here at Unqork. And today I want to provide a quick overview of what makes Unqork truly differentiated when it comes to client onboarding and servicing. So despite all the focus and investment firms have made around onboarding, it's still a very painful process, highly manual, highly costly to build and maintain, really attributable to the complexity of the process, but also some of the shortcomings of the solutions that have been applied to date, which are typically very rigid and require extensive coding and scripting to get the job done. So when it comes to onboarding, there are some specific capabilities that we see as both critical to getting it right, but then also things that make Unqork truly differentiated when compared to other platforms. So the first is digital customer experiences. Traditionally, onboarding has been an internal facing solution, but today it's absolutely critical to be able to have those client facing capabilities. And with Unqork, you can quickly externalize any aspect of the onboarding flow and fully branded self-service portals for things like client outreach, legal agreement negotiation. And those portals with all the validations are really critical in kind of capturing data in a structured way to maximize the straight through nature of the process. The second is intelligent workflows. So onboarding is unique in the sense that there's typically a lot of complex workflows, sub workflows that vary significantly based on things like client attributes and product attributes. And with Unqork, you can build very bespoke, dynamic, reflexive workflows with all the business logic and rules to collect the right information and orchestrate the right process based on various inputs. So, and you can also run parallel workflows to optimize the process efficiency. Case management. Onboarding process transparency has typically been a huge challenge in the industry. So knowing where an onboarding case sits, the next best action, how SLAs are being met. So with Unqork, you can create very powerful case management frameworks that allow you to use existing data schemas to create case types, assign tasks, define rules, dependencies. In addition, you can build robust case and task management notifications, SLAs, dashboards to really provide that full process transparency across the various teams. Integrations are absolutely critical. So onboarding requires dozens of integrations with internal systems, external systems, everything from portfolio management systems to investment guidelines systems, CRMs, KYC data providers. And with Unqork, you can very quickly build these integrations in highly reusable ways without having to re-architect the data model. This is what also allows us kind of maximize that straight through processing to downstream systems at the end of the onboarding process. Speed and maintainability. So as I mentioned, kind of speed, cost, maintainability is still a major pain point when it comes to onboarding. With Unqork's codeless architecture, you can do all the things that I mentioned, in a totally entire visual way without running any code whatsoever. So that allows clients to build their initial applications very rapidly, but also kind of maintain those onboarding and servicing events very quickly as well. So before we jump into demo, I just want to here's a quick snapshot of what a robust, true end-to-end digital onboarding solution looks like with Unqork. So everything from the initiation of the onboarding case, either manually or through an upstream system like a CRM platform, the seamless pre-fill of information before any outreach, which comes from integrations with CRM platforms, KYC data providers, and includes kind of the full legal entity hierarchy setup as well. Then there's the full kind of client outreach and capture of incremental information needed through those self-service portals with all the necessary data validations to ensure the quality of the data and maximize that straight through processing. Then we have kind of the automated KYC and kind of client due diligence processes. So this includes the integrations with KYC data providers for things like politically exposed person sanction screening, adverse media screening, and then all the due diligence or enhanced due diligence workflows that come on the back of that. Then there's more kind of asset management specific capabilities around mandate structure, investment guideline capture, which could be done in a very digital way to really kind of maximize straight through processing for things like compliance monitoring down the road. So this goes all the way through the downstream setups, things like client master setups, fee billing setups, investment guideline setups. And then importantly, this also extends to all the servicing and maintenance events as well for clients. And really that's what maximizes the benefit of Unqork is when clients use the same platform, data model, reuse the workflows for servicing as well. This is all powered by Unqork's codeless architecture and the ability to handle all the associated, case management, the workflow orchestration across many teams involved in onboarding, self-service portals, the dashboards, integrations, document management, all without having to write any code whatsoever. So with that, let's jump into a quick demo that really kind of showcases some of these core capabilities. So what we're going to show here is a institutional onboarding flow that orchestrates kind of a full onboarding case across various different teams. So this includes the front office, outreach teams, the client themselves, due diligence teams, as well as legal, tax, compliance. We're not going to go through the full flow, just enough to show you the kind of core capabilities of the platform. One note is that everything you see from a look and feel perspective, from a logic perspective, can be fully customized to your design requirements as well as your business requirements. So starting with the dashboard, this is very typical for our kind of onboarding solutions, where we're providing that full real-time transparency into where onboarding is across all the different onboarding cases. So here we're slicing the data in the cases by KPIs like age, by status. Down below, you see the onboarding events with status around the case, as well as kind of what that next best action is for the particular case. And then there's RAG statusing based on the SLAs that are defined at the case level, all the way down to the task level. We have all the basics around kind of exporting and filtering information as well. In this case, this process kicks off with the front office person initiating, kind of providing some high-level information about the entity that needs to be onboarded. So here they get a screen to kind of provide that high-level information. Let's say they want to onboard Amazon.com. So we define kind of the entity type as well. And here we're going to see the first of many integrations to really kind of maximize a pre-fill and straight through processing of the onboarding case. So we have an integration with Glyph where we're kind of pulling both the LEI, the jurisdiction, the registration status. And then on the same screen, the front office individual is also indicating some key inputs that are going to drive the reflexive workflows that come on the back of this. So things like the booking information, what types of products this particular client wants to trade, and then what legal entity they're going to be doing business with. So this is what really drives those reflexive workflows, kind of really makes it unique and tailored to this particular client in terms of what information we need to collect and what due diligence needs to be done. So let's go ahead and kick off this case. So just to orient what's going on here. So this is now the outreach team that has opened up the case. They see kind of high-level case information on the top left, including, who the entity is, what products they're trading, who the onboarding owner is. And on the right, we have kind of commenting capabilities, with kind of timestamps. We have a dynamic list of data and documents that need to be collected for this particular client. And then we have a full audit log for kind of what's happening with this case as we go forward. And then from left to right here, we have the information that needs to be collected before we do any outreach. So here I have integrations with Salesforce, as well as kind of KYC data providers to pre-fill as much of this information as possible. In this case, I have nothing coming in from Salesforce, but I can go ahead and kind of hit my data aggregator to get some information around address and status. And then I can also kind of leverage my integrations with Salesforce to write that information through the Salesforce integration that's within the application as well. The next process is kind of pull the related parties. So this includes the ultimate beneficial owners and the directors for this particular Amazon entity. In the interest of time, I'm going to kind of click over to show you what that looks like once we pull that information. So here I've identified 3 ultimate beneficial owners, in addition to kind of their title, their status within the organization, and kind of any key risk indicators from a jurisdictional perspective, a political exposed person perspective, adverse media, and all this is going to feed into the level of due diligence that's going to be required for these ultimate beneficial owners. The outreach team would also be able to kind of upload any documentation. So for example, if the client has provided documentation offline, we would be able to integrate with any document management solution to kind of upload those documents for the onboarding case itself. And then importantly, we also can kind of recommend documents based on, the metadata for this particular client. So here I've collected documents back in 2020. I can also configure rules that say, can I use this document based on the age of the document? So in this case, I'm saying it's over 1 year old. Please kind of request an updated document. I can also kind of delete documents if they're not relevant for this particular client. So let's say I've kind of identified the one document that I have. And again, you can kind of see those, the dynamic list of documents get shorter as I continue to pre-fill information. Then the client outreach team would kind of go ahead and submit the outreach to the client. So in this case, you're going to send that dynamic email to the client. They can draft the email directly within the Unqork application. This would be integrated with your email service. So here they can indicate who the email goes to. They can select from the dynamic list of remaining documents that are required. So in this case, the trader list and SSI, and then kind of go ahead and send that email to the client directly. So here the client would get an email to kind of, go in and complete whatever documentation is required. So here, if I go in, I see a slightly different view from what the outreach team saw. And again, with Unqork's powerful role-based access controls, you can kind of define exactly what the client should see, what they can edit from a read perspective, from a write perspective. So here they see kind of high-level entity information. They see the related party information. They can go ahead and add additional related parties. They can also upload any incremental documentation. And then importantly, they can also kind of do, this is how we kind of enable within Unqork the negotiation around legal documents. So here we have a sample is the agreement where fields are dynamically populating for things like date, the client name, but also things like termination clauses, could be investment guideline processes. What's really powerful about this is that as we capture things in a more structured way, we can pass those down to the downstream systems. So things like investment guideline monitoring become far more straightforward in terms of setting up those guidelines. And then very importantly, you can kind of define what sections of the legal agreement are editable. So for example, this section here is fully editable. So the client can go ahead and make changes, and all of those are going to be tracked in terms of what changes they've either deleted or kind of added. So that's very powerful from an audit trail perspective. But let's say they kind of agree that this document is now valid, and they're going to submit their approval. So now once that approval has been completed, and kind of obviously that would go back to the client outreach team to make sure that all the documents are complete. But just to show one final step here, once outreach has been completed, basically this would go to the due diligence team that can effectively complete the due diligence for this particular client. So here we see again the full set of ultimate beneficial owners for this particular entity. We can pull additional affiliates for this particular entity. We could pull affiliates for each ultimate beneficial owner. And then basically down to the level of identifying what the individual hits were for both PEP sanctions, PEP media sanctions alerts for each individual ultimate beneficial owner. And then the due diligence would be able to kind of classify those as false positives or confirm hits. And then that would ultimately decide whether this particular entity needs to be either declined, approved, or sent for additional due diligence. And then the kind of process would continue from there. So I'm going to pause here. So hopefully this highlights that, we're not just kind of demonstrating case management capabilities with this type of solution, but really with Unqork, you can handle all the workflow execution with the integrations that are required, the robust business logic that's required for the decisioning, all the data validations, the individual UIs for both the clients as well as the internal teams. So really kind of the full end-to-end digital solution that we're bringing to bear. So hopefully this has been helpful in showcasing how Unqork is really uniquely positioned to help with your onboarding and servicing needs. Thank you.